G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs, and a big welcome to everyone who's already joined on the stream. G'day, Jimmy, g'day, Scary, and g'day, Elaine. Thank you for coming on. Yes, so a lot to talk about. We've got the review. I'll wait till a few people jump on. I know it was last minute, and I'll be going on again tomorrow night as usual. Thank you, Jimmy. So Jimmy's asked how CJ's going. CJ's finished up with Harold Matts for this year, and he'll be playing SG ball for the next couple of seasons, which is great news. And now he's going to concentrate on his combined high school stuff. For Bass Hill, the Peter Mulholland Cup. So we'll hear how that's going from Elaine, I am sure. Well, I know we will. And I cannot wait. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. So there we go. Let's get into it. Bulldogs break the magic round curse. Very, very happy. Look, I know when there's periods in that game when you go, we've got the foot on the jugular, we've tired them out, we've maintained possession for 20 minutes, we're up 12-0, doing it quite easily. And then some real, look, they had the right intention to go for the kill after 20 minutes, and they did that, but it was, it was just clunky, which you got to expect, when it's not Burton out there, although Haywood's doing a great job and it hasn't really stopped how well we've performed overall. But we're definitely don't have as much punch on that left edge without Burton there, because those three players, Cherry, Burton, Kikau together, just strip defenders off each other and it just creates gaps and spaces where Haywood just doesn't have that same threat. So big raps to the coach and to the players for managing the way that they go about business to keep it business as usual and to being able to adapt and play different ways. And they have showed variation in pretty much every game that they've played. So very proud of that. Obviously the tip-ons 2 or 3 times in a row, which were going nowhere near the person who was getting the footy. And look, and even at the end, the tip-on play from Blake Taff, which was called forward. The commentator said it was forward. I didn't think it was, but that's just probably me being biased. Still, I felt that was just a continuation of impatience. Love the last try at the end by Reid Marnie. I felt that Connor Tracy and Reid did a really good job at different times and forming a good combination where Connor's coming one off the ruck and Reid's, trying to create that deception around the middle there. And that's the type of game where we've got to do it. So, the game plans are looking pretty simple. They were talking about, the dogs haven't done much this set. Like, it's all deliberate. There's no urgency to go bang, bang, bang on an edge. And even that, the reason they're doing it is they're just making those middles make another tackle. And you just had to look at the likes of Regan Campbell-Gillard and Tino and their edges. Because we're taking it out the edge and then we're bringing it back inside and then we're getting repeat sets. The Titans, even when they got some of that ball and got some of that possession back, they were so buggered that they just made mistakes. They got a few lucky tries against the run of play. And I wear that on the Bulldogs being a little bit cocky and sort of playing into their hands. And that obviously we can't do that against the Raiders and the like. So I'm not going to go too much into the chat tonight. I'll quickly scope through it, and I'm going to talk about the Jacob Preston situation. I've been, working vigorously, looking at what we can do. Initially, I'm like, well, there's no point fighting it because the NRL simply doesn't dismiss cases these days that once they're referred there. They will downgrade some cases, but you can't downgrade a grade 1. And when you can't present evidence to the NRL of other incidences which are very, very similar that weren't referred to the match review committee, or the match review committee didn't charge any of those players. Look, I found about 5 today. I was looking for about an hour, and I found about 5. And none of them deserved to be punished either. And some of them were slightly different, but the whole thing was there was never an intent to push down on the head or lift the player up and go down on a crusher. It was simply just a wrestling action, and the player's head getting caught through the way they were falling, essentially. It's just an accident. And why does there always have to be a scenario? Like the bunker did a much better job this weekend, and then we get that shit. You know what I mean? We get that shit at the end. 4 minutes to go. Oh, you're sin binned. You know, it was quite a sad end to the game. And Preston, because he's got all those other charges, and I've gone through what those charges was. The first charge he got this year, which was when Valentine Holmes, when there was a kick through, was chasing through, and Preston's just running for the ball and runs into him. They called it high. Valentine Holmes stayed down. They got the penalty. One next set, then they end up knocking it on or something. Then the next set, Cherry breaks through, runs 60 metres, and guess who makes the tackle on him? Valentine Holmes. Nothing wrong with him. No HIA. Yet they still proceed with you got a grade 1 charge for high contact. And, you're disincentivised from fighting the charge, even though it's bullshit, because you don't want to miss a week. And it was only round 1. So it's like, okay, I don't want to miss a week. I'll cop the fine. But that loads it on to the next charge if you get charged again, which he did, which was another silly one. And then this third one, it's like they're not even worthy. They're barely worthy of penalties if accidents are penalties, you know. It's disgraceful. And the fact you can't use anyone's footage to compare when you go to the judiciary just makes it a mockery. Like, how are you supposed to present evidence? Like, don't be prepared. This isn't going to go our way. If it does, that's a godsend, and we're blessed. But if not, it's going to be a situation where he's going to be out for 4 weeks. And that means the next 3 games, then we have a bye, and that'll also mean the Eels game, which I'll be down there. There'll be no Prestomania. You know, so selfishly, part of me just wants them to go, well, there's no point to fight it. Just be there for the Eels match. But I am glad the club's fighting it on behalf of the individual. And the reason I say that is Jacob Preston is to be a 50-50 chance of playing Origin this year means you're well in contention. You know, there's incumbents. We will see perform. You know, we won't get to see how he goes against the likes of Angus Crichton. I think it's on the other side anyway. No, they would have been coming up against each other. Angus on the left versus Preston on the right. That's not going to eventuate now if he doesn't get cleared. Hudson Young this week. You know what I mean? Hudson Young's playing this week. And Jacob Preston doesn't get to impress. So if he doesn't get to play, what I'm expecting is our Dogs to grit their teeth, go out there and make Hudson Young look second rate for their mate Jacob. I will say Hudson Young's had a really good season this year so far, and he's gone up another level, so he's playing well. G'day, David. Welcome. G'day, JD. Thanks for coming on and saying hello. Jimmy says, who's ready for the weekend gospel? Sayed, welcome. What a rubbish suspension for Presto. I hope he beats the Chargers. If not, I see Salmon in the second row, Moran starting 13, bench Man, Hayes, Hotboy, Hayward. I like your thinking, Sayed. I think that's how it's going to go down. I will talk about who the other players that are in contention. I think Man will actually start in this case, or they might. Actually, yeah, because Burton will be back. Burton will definitely back. Man, Hayes, Hotboy, Hayward. Yeah. That may happen. That definitely may happen. Turpin could be a chance to play as well in that 13 role. I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk about the New South Wales Cup and as a little bit as well. And I'll also have a chat about, I watched some Ron Massey and Jersey Flegg, because I suppose you just want to know what's happening with some of these players in our development list, what's happening with some players in the New South Wales Cup. And it was great to see a lot of players that have been playing in that Ron Massey club come through and get a chance in New South Wales Cup. We should have won that match. It was rather disappointing in the end. Discipline got us, and they did have some really strong experience in their side, which they utilised well in the end. But we should have won that match, and I don't think they'll lose too much confidence out of it. There's so much to like about these Dogs kids coming through, and you get them in a team and keeping them in a team for numerous weeks. And that team will build and develop and be very, very hard to beat in any grade. But it's because they're trying to develop these kids' careers whilst trying to get the best outcomes for the NRL side to build our club. It can make it difficult on the defensive side of things, which is where you get sort of disappointed in the results. But yeah, they should have won the New South Wales Cup with a lot of changes, but I will talk about that a little bit. JD's Preston's charge is a joke. It sure is, my friend. Definitely a comical charge, says Jimmy, but his last couple of appearances at the judiciary have cost him now. And that's it. But as I said, it's a system issue, and it hurts clubs because essentially you're disincentivized. So the NRL gets paid a fine, rather than them having to pay for a barrister or a lawyer, and to pay all the people to go there on that night. They've got to pay them all to be there. They've got to pay them for all the prep work they do in order to, have their side of the case as to why they're guilty. They're guilty before proven innocent. And, so the charge is a 1 week, but if you save everyone the hassle, you get off with a fine. If it's a grade 1, rarely a grade 1's dismissed either. But if it's a grade 2, you've got a chance of getting it dropped to a grade 1. And that's the problem. So you're disincentivized not to cause any hassle, just to accept your medicine. When you accept your fine, you're validating a guilty charge as well. So you're saying you're guilty. But from a club point of view, from a player point of view, and from the NRL point of view, the NRL gets some money from a fine. Everyone saves money because they don't go to a midweek hearing. And, but you're saying you're guilty. And that's the consequence you wear the next time something like that happens. And then if it happens again, it just keeps going up and up and up. The sad thing for Preston is that I'm pretty sure it'll just load up more if there's another one, even after he serves his time. So it could cost us big time. And I don't think it's a technique thing. I just think it's lightning just keeps striking in the wrong places. Next week and onwards, our draw gets more difficult. Not to say that every game was not difficult already. I agree 100%. Raiders is going to be insanely tough, Canberra, especially with their form. They were already a gritty side for anyone. G'day, Mondai. Welcome to the podcast. I did have a good weekend, my friend, and it was great to see our first Magic Round win. And there were some people who went to the game who had not seen the Dogs win at Suncorp, who felt it was all them as the curse on their side, which is how we look at things a lot of the time. And, they got that monkey off their back as well. So well done. Tino, the big milker. Yeah, I love how they say, Tino wouldn't stay down. Bullshit. He wants to win. And the thing was, the tackle before was nearly called a crusher as well. If you look at it, the Wigan got up and he was like, and it was nearly considered one. It was a similar sort of incident, but because Tino sort of got wedged in there a little bit longer, and because Preston is in an adjustment sort of wrestling technique, and his legs go. But if you look at them, all the legs go out flat because you sort of clamp down, and then your legs go out horizontal behind you. That's all that happens. It's but this terminology, this ancient old terminology, like in rugby union, they penalise players for losing their legs because it's the same in the scrum. If you fall apart in the scrum, if you're not strong enough to hold it up together, you get penalised. Stuff like that. They try and they have these things in their rule books that aren't really considered by the average Joe Blow. He lost his legs, so he's culpable. But how can you keep your legs when it looks like it's ridiculous? It's really ridiculous. Thanks, Tahi. Yep, we need to hit that like button and subscribe. And the reason I say that is because it does help with the algorithm. And when we're doing these kids videos, I did one of Sasai Alatini the other day. It was bad timing because it was the election, and also released a preview, the Dogfathers preview, on the same day. But I want to see that kid get a lot more views on that because it is a big deal to these 18-year-olds to see someone and to see that the fans are getting more of an insight to them, because it's less than 10% of the fan base that actually take a huge interest in what the juniors are doing, and that just comes down to time as well. But I know a lot of people when they start to look at it and see it, it actually they start to really enjoy watching the juniors come through and going on that journey with them. So definitely like and subscribe for that purpose, and it helps the channel, of course, and it just means we can get more good people to this conversation. Didn't mind the tip on attempts and the attempts to go wide on Jason Taylor's working plays, just the execution a little way to go still, but tighten up with the flamboyance first Raiders. And I think they will, Dave. I think they'll get to work, and we'll look at who's going to come in if Preston's not there. G'day, Lucas. Welcome, mate. Welcome. Yeah, look, the tip-on plays, they're having a crack. They're having a go. It was just a bit clunky. And that surface wasn't conducive for open, free-flowing football, let's be honest. The amount of rain that was just draining through that surface the previous night, like I reckon there would have been 20, 30 millimetres at least. There was really heavy rain at my place for ages. So it's held up pretty well in the end, but you could see there were parts of it, especially on that left edge, in the first half, where there was a lot of turf coming up pretty easily, just from running on it and copping a tackle on it. It was all sort of chopping up. So yeah, look, and it's just harder. They've got to try things though. They've got to do things, and getting to GIO next Saturday, hopefully a dry surface, 3 p.m. And we've got some really good inroads on both edges, whether Preston's there or not, and having Matty Burton there as a running threat. Obviously, Cherry also got a little bit injured in that match, which I didn't mind. Critter got to work. He did a lot more work in that game. That was his highest work rate all season, and I think it was down to the fact that Cherry sort of hurt his shoulder, said wasn't doing as much. And plus, we also were obviously had a plan to attack their left edge of defence, because that's where with Carraz and the kicks and Critter and Tracy going through there, it's a definite strength of ours to do that. And the left was a little bit, obviously just doesn't have that same physical penetration when Matty Burton's not there. Bailey did a good job overall. Scary. I'd seen the footage today of the so-called crush tackle. It was milked like Tino as a dairy farmer Monday to Friday. As I said, the previous play, they tried to milk it as well. So, look, I sort of don't have a problem with the penalty. I can see that happening. If it was called without going to the bunker, if he doesn't stay down, I wouldn't really have a problem because it didn't look like he said did get stuck for a bit. But he was completely fine. There wasn't a problem. And he takes the next hit up. No issue. So he was milking it, no doubt about it. But to be charged for it, like, come on. Give us a break. 3 players last week. You know, Curran copping 3 weeks. He should have copped a week with an early plea on a grade 2, which I felt was the right charge in the end for Curran. But the first offence he got in the trial match, that shouldn't have been charged. That was bullshit. Complete accident, just like the Critter one last year. The player's levelled or the player falls. Player's levelled by Burton. He just falls into the shoulder. There's nothing he could do. Nothing he could do in that first effort. So he shouldn't have been charged the first time. Got suspended, though, because they called it a grade 2 as well. Bullshit. Missed the first bit, didn't auto-play for me. Oh, sorry, buddy. How good was Tracy? Yeah, let's get on to the good stuff about the team. I'm going to go through some of the stats in a moment as well and get that cranking. Credit Preston and Marnie. Great to see us win a magic round game. Presto's charge was rubbish. Bring on the Raiders. Nicely put, brother. Mondi, DSF was impressive. He was going after it. Great defence. Yeah, look, I felt we had a more controlled start with the defence. But it was tough. And, yeah, he was part of that, just clogging up that middle. And I've also got to give raps to the interchange bench to come on. Even though we were being impatient in attack and doing some silly things, Curtis Moran, his runs were phenomenal. He played 26 minutes, had plenty of hit-ups and plenty of cover through the middle, and just shows why it's great to have a player like that in your club. But the thing about Curtis is he's going to outplay his value, and he's going to be worth more than what the Bulldogs are probably going to be able to pay him as a depth player, if that makes sense. Many would make the case that he would earn the right before some others, but when you go through it, who does he replace? You know, it's just such a dilemma with that. You know, it'd be nice if someone could pay him a really good wage and then have him just, you know, take minimum at the Dogs for the rest of his career. But I think that there'll be clubs they'll want to pay him a little bit more for where they're at, and they'll be making offers to take him away from the Bulldogs, and the Dogs aren't going to stand in a guy's way when he fulfills a certain role within that club, if that makes sense, as they continue to bring these juniors through to replace guys like that. You know, you get a player that's on 250 and replace it with a junior on 200. That's for a couple of years, stuff like that. You know, it's how we free up more money to ensure we've got enough money to pay a spine that's doing really well, or to pay juniors that we need to keep from poachers and stuff like that. It's a big thing to deal with, and unfortunately, it means some players have to leave our club that we really like and adore, and I don't think there's a player in our club with a heart as big as Curtis Moran. I will say that quite easily. People losing their legs and losing my mind, and I'm losing my. G'day, Timmy. Welcome to the channel, and thanks again for being a member, mate. Much appreciated. Really helps out. Just thought I'd ask a question. Do you think Jason Taylor may join the coaching staff at the Bears when they come into the comp? How long is Jason Taylor sign up with Canterbury? Well, what I will say, Timmy, is Jason Taylor said he doesn't want to coach and then be a head coach ever again. It will depend whether he wants to move to Perth, which is a big deal for a lot of people. And I guess it's how much they'd be willing to pay a player like Jason. An assistant like Jason Taylor. It's not a bad scenario to have when you have someone who says they have no aspiration to be a head coach, and they're your assistant coach, and everything's just working well. You know, that's a good scenario, because you see a lot of these clubs where they've got that, you know, career pathway for their assistant coaches to become head coaches with their, you know, with what they want to do. And those assistant coaches then leave you sort of high and dry. And a lot of those coaches form really strong relationships with the playing group and with the juniors as well, because they sort of act as that intermediate, you know. In some clubs that the assistant they talk about the assistant being the nice guy, but in some clubs the assistant can also be the henchman, but not too often. You know, I know in our business that I used to run, you know, well, position of like an ops manager, you know, operations would be the one to deliver all the bad news and do all the tough stuff, and the head manager would be the one, you know, giving the free pies, or doing sausage sizzles, or giving out little cakes and stuff to the staff, you know, do all the nice stuff. But in rugby league, it's a little bit different. The assistant coaches definitely are considered the nice guy, and that's why some of them struggle with getting especially the younger generation to switch on when they say something. And you know, some of them aren't used to it and don't respond. But one thing we've noticed about the Bulldogs is that they're responding. They've had a couple of halftime, and the players said Serrato hasn't grilled them at all. I think, you know, though, when he's not happy, like, I think he's not the, you know, the beautiful, nice champion human. He's a champion human, but he's not this fluffy. I don't think he's this fluffy character that hangs around the guys. I think he's deadly serious, and he captures their hearts and minds, and they believe him. It's obvious that, you know, all us fans who doubted Serrato, and I put my hand up, were wrong, because when he speaks to that team at half time, for the most part, they come out and get down to business, and put a gap between themselves and the opposition. Now, there's been games where we've then had to fight it out to the end of the game to win, but for the most part, you know, whatever lulls we've had, we've responded. And look, I think we did more damage to the Broncos than they did to us. They came off a short turnaround. Everything worked for them in that game, in that first half. Nothing went right for us. We're creators of our own misery. The coach had a chat to us. We went out there and we got down to business. And the Broncos didn't look like scoring, and then got one right at the end after the siren. So it's like, then we play the Titans, first 20 minutes. They're not even in that contest. Not even in it. But this is the NRL. If you give people opportunities, they're going to take them. Especially when they've got players as fast as Khan Pereira. Like, he was only jogging. Him and the Hammer would be a good contest, I'll tell you that much. He is so fast. Like, that was ridiculous how easily he ran away. And then when that happened twice, where they got to run away from, you know, against the run of play. When I think Fermor scored on the left edge after they picked up one of our loose balls, it was funny because we matched up with them with the numbers, but I was watching the camera from behind them, and it wasn't just Critter who turned in and fell for what was happening, but it was also Tracy at the back. Because if Tracy turned in left, and then it was too late. But if they both, or if one of them doesn't turn in, we stop that try then. So yeah, but look, they were fatigued. They just had to all run back to get onside and try and stop that try. It was a really good scramble yet again for the Dogs, and the Titans were able just to execute it with a good try. But they got one from a kick as well. Oh, and then the Tino one, like it was just all rubbish, pretty much. Another game that could have been 50-0, really. And I suppose that's a frustrating thing for the fans a little bit, is we watch a team that looks so dominant and as the best defence in the competition by far at the moment, but teams have been able to sort of get a sniff in games, and that's the worry. That team really didn't have a sniff. Was the Sharks. We actually just outplayed from the first, when they couldn't score in the first 5-10 minutes. We just did our thing and scored our points and surprised them. And would they get 6 points? I also must say, though, we need to play for 80 minutes. I expect that next week. And we have had some games where a lot's gone in our favour as well, as far as, injuries to the other team, sim bins. The Broncos game was probably the only game we've done it really tough. But also there was lots of games last year where we did it real tough and managed to get wins, which shows this side's got something and got a lot. And they're clocking up enough points that if, we're affected by four bloody suspensions, we get Burton back next week, but now we'll likely be out without Preston, Curran and Tupanua. That's a lot to endure. And especially when you're coming up against the Raiders and the Roosters, who are getting some confidence, who won't be afraid of the Dogs, and then the Dolphins. They're all going to play us without our full complement of hardworking, tough, really good players for Canterbury that we've all grown to love very, very quickly. G'day, Buzz. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Tino's bumper just as bad as Satili's knees. Yeah, 100%, mate. And I've said that many times on this podcast. Thank you for coming and saying hello. Bit of tech. Hey, folks, great game. Hard work. Back to the game plan and success. Loving it, friend. I think all the boys played really well. Tracy was a stand as well as Moran, but both play above their body weight. Yeah, Tracy was man. In my opinion, Tracy and Carrez share that man of the match honour. If I could share it, I'd give it to both. Carrez gets the 3 tries. He's a real Origin chance. You give him the man of the match. You want his name in the headlights. I think all the boys played really well. Yep, there we go. Tino makes contact with his arm at head high when running the ball is more of an issue than the crusher, I think. I think it is too. And actually, I didn't even watch it much this game. Isn't that funny? I just had my eyes elsewhere the whole game. Like I'm usually all over it. First time he ran the ball at Belmore this year, bumper up. It was his return from his knee injury, which happened the corresponding game the year before. Bumper up. Hit someone in the head, not even looked at. He was much better for the rest of the game because I watched it. So I need to go and have a look at that. Timmy says, with the form of Critter, Preston and Crows would be deadly edge for New South Wales. With the way Cleary orchestrated the win yesterday, he would be licking his lips at having those 3 players outside him. I do not doubt it. Because it's the same system. You've got you've got Carraz, who's essentially a meter eater like Lomax, and Toto, that gives 100%. He's a little bit awkward as well. He gets away offloads, which him and Lomax are pretty much a very similar type of winger, except one kicks goals. Both are good in the air, and both are a great target for kick try assists, and both are never dead. I just think Carraz has got a bigger heart. I always thought that. I feel his attitude's a lot better when things are, he won't just throw stupid flick passes. Look, there'll be mistakes. Players have targeted his ball carrying a few times. Hunt got underneath the ball We saw Ethan Strange do it twice at Magic Round the year before. He went for that offload, which in 99% of referees and bunkers just say loose carry, hit another player. It's a drop ball, whether it goes backwards or forwards. We got the luck with that, and I think that's what they're laughing about. Like, he probably couldn't believe it. But it was important. We needed to get that call, actually. They were starting to get tired, which is why Critter was taking time with his dropouts and stuff like that. The boys had to do a bit of work, and he just wanted to make sure that they got some air into their lungs and then got to work and kept doing the job they needed to do in defence. 100% they do. He's done it so often, everyone is used to it, I think. You're probably right, mate. You're probably right with that. Let's get some stats up, shall we? I'll drop myself to that. There we go. All right, so look, we all know what happened with the try scoring. Perez got 3. Presto got 1. Tracy and Marnie got 1 as well. Critters hit 22 goals in a row. So all the people who said that we needed to make Critter the goal kicker are validated. They're justified. But as I say, you never know. I let the players and the club work out who's going to be the kicker. There's no point me giving my opinion on who should kick. Team stats, let's have a look at it. 55% possession. We win over 50% possession. We don't lose. That's become a common denominator with the Bulldogs. An extra 5 minutes with the footy. 10 errors, only 76% completion. Good sides win with 76 to 78 all the time. 83 for the Titans, which is mainly them just rucking it out, trying to do their best to get into the grind and develop some good footy habits, having lost 4 in a row. But they struggled. 1,959 to 1,385 run meters. And look, we played the team which had conceded the most amount of average run meters and had got the least amount themselves. So that was fully in line with that. Winning the post contact, I love that for the Dogs. 7 line breaks to 1. There's the tail of the tape. 38 to 32 in the tackle breaks. Obviously, they've got some players that can really influence that. We're making lots of set distance from our play, and which is why we didn't, have need to do as many long kicks, which is good. They're allowed, again, a team's allowed to lay all over us in the ruck, yet afforded the ability to play the ball quick. That hasn't helped them. They've lost by 20 points, but still, hopefully in a game with a better credentialed side, that bias doesn't remain like that. 7 offloads. The Dogs have been offloading, over 10, 15 or more the last few weeks. So, and limiting them to 10 offloads isn't a bad effort, because the Titans can get away good offloads and be very, very dangerous off their late ones. Second phase is where they have to sort of do stuff. We forced 2 forced dropouts, 3 for them. Diffused most of their bombs. Again, that grubber from Toby. I've just seen a lot of little errors in his game that need to improve. But again, there was some pinpoint kicks which were phenomenal. Toby, what I see out of Toby Sexton is defensively an A-grade halfback at the moment. In attack, it goes from A to D, quite often, where he's taken some wrong options. But his choice making, kick, run, and pass is generally, a B+. So he's doing a lot of things right from what I'm seeing, and I think he's getting himself closer to a deal, hopefully with the Dogs, but potentially wherever it is, but I don't know. So look, we won the penalty count. They conceded 5, and they conceded 3 ruck infringements to our 1. 2 on reports to our 1 on report, 2 sin bins to them, 1 to us. So there you go. Let's have a look at the stats. Reid Marnie playing 80 minutes again, did a good job. Tracy, big meters, Tracy, I thought was the man of the match in my opinion. But the back 3 of our guys, Tracy 267, Carrez 227, and Montoya 183. Crichton stepping up, 15 runs, 177. Post contact good for the lot of them, all over the 40-metre mark. Really good shared job. Hayward, surprised he had 8 runs. It gets to the ground quick, doesn't get any post contact usually. He had 1 really incisive run though. Toby and Hayward probably want to see run a little bit more, and I think we will when different games emerge. Try assists were great, and love what our pack did. Kurt Mann, 10 runs for 100 metres. He was really good again. Really good. Salmon had a good game, really steady. Presto did his job. He was a real menace on the edge. Real tough. Kick out, one of his... it does so many things right in his effort areas all the time, but, he won't be happy with the mistakes he made. And Maxi King, 132 metres from 11 runs. Saluk for feeder. Got to get some minutes, 109 metres. It's good to see Taff get at least 10 minutes. And Curtis Moran did a great job as well. Missed tackles. I think we missed about 32 tackles to the Titans, 38. Hayward missing 6. Marnie 4. Salmon 4. Harry Hayes 3. Harry had a bit of a cold start to the game, I felt, but got really good as it went on. I just felt his contact he was getting bumped off and struggled a little bit early, but really come into play as the game wore on, and you'd say he's had a good game overall. It was good. But our backline hardly had to look at that. When Cherry and Crichton only have to make 13 tackles between them, like the other side is just getting dominated. Like Regan Campbell-Gillard, people were saying, I thought he had a really good season last year at Para. He doesn't look like he's going that well at the Titans. His runs, and he doesn't look like a premier prop at all. I wonder how much they've paid him. He might be a bit injured as well and just doing his best, and that can happen in the middle. But there you go, guys. We'll look at the minutes. Where's the minutes? So Maxi King only had to play 41 minutes, which is good. Saluka Fafita got to play 32, which is big. That's great. He's getting more and more minutes in his game. They're playing him for longer minutes in New South Wales Cup. Presto 76 because he got sin binned. Salmon he played 46, which is about his average. Kurt 33 again, which is his average. Harry played a lot more, 47. Moran 27 was a lift on what he'd been doing. And Taff got 10 minutes in the game, so that was good. All right. G'day, Big Roo. Upper Man Mick finally saw the Dogs win live at Magic Ground. That's right, buddy. You weren't the it wasn't your fault they were losing, mate. 27 ups from Tracy is crazy. It's great. and it was good support. And look, the reason these guys get to do that is because we like to keep the ball in play. We forced team. We weren't making too many defence. We're not conceding line breaks. We're suffocating their sets so that they can't make much ground at all. They didn't have a big kicking game because they lost their halfback early, which is another thing that went in our favour, which made it really hard for the Titans. Brimson can't boot the skin off the ball. He's just not a good kicker. The fullback did a good job, actually. I felt shanked a few, but when we're getting the ball, catching it on the full, 20 metres out, 11 times in a match, it's like it is going back to 2004. I'm just watching the General and El Masri in Utah. It's not much change, really. Watching what they're doing. Just coming out there, being able to crab across, being able to link up at different times, making it really difficult for the Titans. And then all of a sudden we're hitting their bloody 20-metre line just from our set, and putting the bombs up into the corners. It's exactly what the Raiders are going to try and do against us, but we'll do the preview later in the week. He's a little workhorse. He certainly is. And he gets to work. They all do. If we don't win that ruck, we don't limit that kicking game of the opposition, it becomes a lot harder for our guys to get out of their own end. And we've seen that in some games as well. But they're prepared for that. They know what they've got to do. And when you get a player like Burton back and he's kicking it and his legs are right and he's able to kick the ball, it's probably wasn't a bad thing. He got another week off, to be honest. He always needs to run, but with those knee injuries and stuff, obviously would have been cleared and right to go, but it just gives him that extra week without the added contact, and probably maybe have a bit more confidence, and you'll see a really strong running game from him against the Raiders, which will be required. Critter's learning from the best. Chuka Darryl Halligan. There you go. Look, Critter has a really good style for kicking the footy. And I was asked, who do you prefer, Burton or Critter? I said, well, I think Burton's the more talented kicker of the football, and as a kicker, as a goal kicker. But Critter's just got this way of just sort of guiding it through. It doesn't go that far. It only just makes it where it's got to go, and it's all very relaxed. And he's a nice kicker of the ball. Everything Critter does is smooth and is efficient. He gives himself thinking time. I wonder how his golf swing is. And there was another smooth athlete, Gary Hughes, Mark and Graham also. Well, there you go. That's another great way to describe it. He's just really smooth. What about Critter and Kraz on the edge carving the Titans? Didn't you love it, Sam? And what about that pass from Critter to pretend he's going to flick it, lift it over, run through down the right? And then he's looking inside where he's got two players he can pass to. And then fakes, and he was always passing to Kraz, who just kept up the chase perfectly. What a ball. And it's not like Kraz didn't have company when he got it. Like, that was magical. We saw a lot of that magic last year too, didn't we? With those two involved. Wonder who replaces him, Hayes, the starting hot boy on the bench. Well, we will see. We'll go through that in a minute, guys. Haven't seen KO get a workout with Birdo's bombs. A few elite torps could ruin his confidence early. Well, the idea is we do the same. But look, it's the Raiders are going to make some more territory on us than other teams have been. There's no doubt. They've got a seasoned forward pack, and all the young guys have been developed to the minute to be able to play more and more minutes. They've had a good system, bringing in these next up players for Tapine and for Tarpanay and for Papali'i. They've had a really good pathway in place for these guys, and plus they've got some good edge players as well. There's no doubt about that. They get to work. They work hard. They're hard to stop. And I like the way the Raiders are playing. And I said at the start of the season they're going to be a big deal. And I've said for the last couple of years that I expect the Raiders and the Dogs to be two of the sides in 5 years' time that are up the top of the competition as massive rivals. I really do, because I've seen what they've got in their juniors. I've seen how they've developed them, which they have to do because big stars don't like going there to Canberra. So they have to deliver it from within, which is how they were successful to start with. You know, they got players all from Queensland, but they all stayed there for years. You know, they played together for years to win those premierships while bringing in the juniors that they brought through. So it's going to be a great contest. And you look at these players like Tomoko and that, like they've been at it for ages. Sebastian Christ. They didn't look like great players 3 years ago, but they're seasoned, tough, fast, hard to stop, and very determined individuals in a system where everyone knows what they're doing. You know, look, I go to watch the Bulldogs Raiders games the last 3 years where we've lost. You know, the game where we conceded in the first set, and we lost most of those games by 4 or 6 points. But for the most part, they were nowhere near as fierce and determined and as aggressive as they are now. Much more in tune side that's working really hard, and I don't mind watching them. I think the penalty was bullshit yesterday. I don't think that was deserved. I don't think the Oitikamanu thing was deserved. I think they were given a leg up to win that match in the end. But you can say the Raiders had a lot go against them at different times as well. I don't fear these sides, but obviously I'd feel a lot better if Tupanua, Curran and Preston were playing next Saturday. Harry Hayes come back last week from an ankle injury. Maybe he's not 100%, but he had better second stint when he came on. Yeah, he certainly did, mate. I think he only played one stint. So I think it's more the second half. So I think he just played 47 minutes straight. But, yeah, the start of the game, the contact was off. He got knocked off a few times. But, yeah, once he got warm, it was back to being Harry Hayes. A good matchup between the Raiders and Bulldogs' respective back rows. It's a shame if we lose Presto, though. Still wish we had scary prop enforcer like the man in the picture, another ogre. Yeah, and there he is, ogre. Timmy says, do you think, depending on how things pan out, positioning on the ladder at season's end, do you see the Bulldogs playing Canberra again in the finals? Well, it's a big question, Timmy. I really don't know, mate. Like, I can see it happening for sure. I think they're top 4. I said at the start of the year, I've got some friends who know that I've said it. I also said I expected Souths to finish in bottom 4. And when you look at the way these teams are playing, even when Souths get some players back, they're nowhere near the Raiders. Not to say they couldn't beat them. So there you go. There you go. So who's going to replace? Who is going to replace? Who is going to replace Jacob Preston if he's out? Look, I'll release a side that I predict. I think Jake Turpin, who was, I'm not sure if he actually played on the weekend at all. Actually, he didn't. He mightn't have passed the fitness test, but if he's ready, he could be someone who comes in. But that, because he can play that small lock role. But with Hayward going back from the from 5'8" back to the 14 or the 17, I should say, they they might not. Look, I'm not sure if they'll go with a Kurt Mann starts, Jake Turpin and Bailey Hayward in the reserve pack, and then with a Harry Hayes and Kurt Moran. Look, I'm not sure that would work, but it's not much different to what they've done previously. So I think what we might see is they will go Harry Hayes, Lipoi Hopoi, Curtis Moran, and Bailey Hayward on the bench. And Kurt Mann will start at lock with Jamin Salmon to the right edge. That's how I think it'll go. I think many would agree. And, all systems go from there. But look, I don't think Sion Maeu is ready. We may see him get called to the extended bench. There might be dispensation to bring a New South Wales Cup player into like a next man up as cover, like a Luke Smith again. Samuel Hughes is round 12. They may keep Blake Taft there, but I'm not sure if that's going to be a smart thing to do. Burton's back. I suppose we have lost a lock, or we have lost a second rower, and that might bring a lock into play. Drew might get an opportunity to cover on the extended bench again. People shouldn't put him down. He's been playing really good in New South Wales Cup. If you watch those games, he's like a Nathan Cleary at that level, and it's not a lie. Just same with Chad Townsend. Like, he's pretty good at reserve grade. Does Joey O'Neill. So it's unlikely we get halves into the mix, but more people can play in that lock role. But looking for the side, who is a genuine out-and-out second rower that could replace Preston when we've lost Tupanua, we've lost Curran. Now, look, Harry Hayes, although he's been playing in the middle, I don't know how much edge he's been practicing in the reps and stuff, and whether that's a plan B for the club. But if it was, he's played plenty of edge before. So he could go to the edge, and they keep Salmon in that lock rotation with Kurt Mann and Haywood. It all depends. Have they got New South Wales Cup team in here? Let's have a look at the Bulldogs. So Adam Runchell played on the weekend. He come off the bench. He's a prop. Haven't seen much of Woodger or Lowe. Conti got on the extended bench for the New South Wales Cup on the weekend, which was a well done for him. He didn't play, and Alan Holton. I'll tell you about this guy, Alan Holton. Now, his ill discipline at the end of the game, he got sin binned. He just did a really good tackle, caused an error. Decided to get a bit cheeky with the bloke on the ground, and they all rushed in, and he ended up getting sin binned, and they got the penalty, and they went on and then hit the front and then scored another try to rub it in, 38-31. But Alan Holton, he's wearing a headband, but God, his movements remind me of Cameron Smith. Like, he's an out-and-out hooker. Like, his whole it's obvious his whole career, he's loved being a hooker his whole life. But he's definitely been a hooker his whole life. Lachlan Vale, I haven't seen much of him this year. He must be out injured with a bad injury, because he's definitely someone with a lot of talent. Larry Mugatudia playing a few games in New South Wales Cup. But he's a prop and a big fella, but he scored a try on the weekend and played well coming on. Haven't seen much of Leighton Borg. Lewis Grossamy, now, he's been playing on the edge, on the left edge, and doing a wonderful job. Lewis Grossamy. So one that many people would know about, but runs hard, runs straight, and gets to work. Looks like he could offload a lot of the times, but doesn't end up doing it. Luke Smith's obviously he's started in the centres this year as another pathway option for him, but he's been playing second row lately, which is where he's always been. Oscar Bryant, didn't see him this weekend, but he's definitely got some really good attacking skill as a hooker. And Ruben Moyle played a really long stint in New South Wales Cup and had one of his best games. Taniela Odokolo, another hooker, playing lock. I'll tell you what, the way he played on the weekend was great. I love watching him. And honestly, it was like watching a Jim Dimmick out there. He just kept working, kept running the footy. You know, you want your lock to be one of your hardest working players, don't you? The amount of hit-ups he was taking and the amount of, holes he was dinting in that line was great to see. Zion had some good efforts and good runs at different times. Again, I just feel like he wants to be in there. He wants to be doing lots. He's at 100 miles an hour when he gets the ball. It's just not happening. Like it's like you can see it. Once it clicks with him, we could be looking at a real big, an important, contributor to our club. But it's just something not there. I can't believe Underhill's not listed here in this squad. Ragarevi Warwick, he's been playing in the halves a fair bit in Ron Massey, and he actually, I think he was playing fullback and did a really good job. And Trenton Peterson was playing in the centres, even though he wasn't listed. Cassius Tia played. He played in the halves. It wasn't a bad game by Cassius. He was silky smooth, played with good, swagger, did some really good things, but definitely wasn't his best game. But definitely had some strong moments in the game as well. Joey O'Neill was threatening and did his job well. They should have won that match, and they didn't. But we now know Jared Sutton doesn't just hate us, he hates the Storm as well. I don't know about that, mate. The Storm have received more penalties from Jared Sutton than any other club. In fact, South Sydney is second. But the Melbourne Storm have also been near the top of the ladder for the whole time he's been a ref, which makes sense. They earn a lot of penalties through their hard work. And when Cameron Smith was there, he used to do the reffing for him, so they got away with a lot too. We could give Luke Smith a debut, but again, I don't think he's in the development squad. So he would have to come in from, unless there's no other second row option, via our top 30. There'd have to be dispensation for him to come in. Thank you so much, Scary. Yep. Have a great day and have a great night, everyone. Yep. Thank you so much, mate. The suggestion before was probably spot on. I could see Salmon going to Presto's edge and either Mann or Moran starting at 13. Look, I have no doubt Moran could start at 13, but I don't think they will. Like, he played that in the Maori All-Stars. And he was doing the out-the-back stuff. And he's done it. He's done it before. He's got in there and been a passer of the football and linking up with the outside, linking up with the halves and stuff. He's played the link man role before. But I think they've taken that out at the Bulldogs. I don't think that's his role anymore. Unless it sort of happens on the run. And I think he could do it. But if they've got Mann and Haywood that can still do that role and share that role, I think that's where they'll go and just have Moran playing prop in the prop rotation with Hayes. And potentially, look, they could put Hotboy on the edge as well, but he's had a couple of games there this season and he's done a lot better than last year when they tried him there. I just think he's a defensive liability if he has to play on that edge. At that level, I think he'll be exposed. But in the middle, I think I'd love to see him get an opportunity. And yeah, I think he's come on in leaps and bounds. Real contributor every week and influences what the team does. Didn't play Cup on the weekend and they missed him a lot. I think we have the same team as last year against Raiders. Man starts at lock, Salmon, Sekiro, and bench will be Hayward, Hayes, Hotboy, and Moran. That may well and truly be it, and I think that's what it will be, mate. With Hayward and Man playing, that 45-minute role of Salmon. Hayward coming on for 30. And then Hayes and Hotboy and Moran playing, 40, 30 and 30 minutes between them. Great minds think alike. There we go. The New South Wales Cup boys missed Hutchison's leadership on the weekend. Yeah, they did at the end of the game. And see, that's what they've been doing, Timmy. They've been letting Cassius come in. And sometimes when the game is getting a bit away from them and whatever, although they had a lead, they were leading, 25-12 at one point, and got run down. They bring Hutchison in to steady the ship, and missing him and having some players come through cost them big time for but from what I saw from the performances of the players, the way they established that lead and brought players from Ron Massey that have been, and they've put a lot of SG ball players that have finished their season that haven't made the Jersey flag squad, or they're trialing a Jersey flag squad players, and the ones left over will get their shot eventually. They've put into Ron Massey, and again, Ron Massey gets out to an early lead against a team and then gets run down and concedes a lot of tries at the end, which is what's been happening. It's been the tale of the whole season. When the going gets tough, they sort of capitulate a bit, but that just comes down to a lack of connection. G'day, James. Thank you for coming on, say hello. And thank you for being a member. Much appreciated, mate. It's a testament to Gus building our depth. We can feel confident even when we lose players to suspension or injury. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm confident we're going to go out there, and if we play to our potential, we can win. Where it's far from the days of the first grade side just played. We need to change the team up and get someone from reserve grade in. It's a much better feeling. Jimmy says, Lewis Grossman has been all switching between Ron Massey and Cup. Yeah, he's been a mainstay of that Cup side for most of the season now, which is good. Tay says, has Zion been doing okay? Yeah, look, I was just talking about that earlier, but I feel that he's not far off. I just feel that the game's just and the style has been hard to, other teams are definitely waiting for him as well. So when there's a hit up for Zion, like, they're all over him because they know he hits it at 100 miles an hour, and if he gets steam up, he can really cause dents and create trouble for the opposition. And there's just been times where, part of his role is stripping numbers or creating deception in what they're doing as well, because he does get a lot of attention. Whilst the Jack Underhill is just a complete workhorse and he'll just keep hitting it up, they aren't as stressed about what he's doing as they are about Zion. So he's a bit of a focal point for sides. Like when he went and played Ron Massey Cup, he looked like he was playing with kids, and there's some tough bastards in that side. I think they got their first win when he was there. In the Cup level, yeah, it just hasn't been a smooth transition for him. I could see his intent is there, and that's the main thing. But it just hasn't happening as much as you'd want to. He probably wants, is what I would say. But he might be doing exactly what he's supposed to do, and the club's 100% happy with him. I wouldn't know. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming on tonight. We've been going an hour and 10 minutes. It's been a pretty comprehensive review. I feel next week's going to be the team's going to get to work. They're going to do their thing. And yeah. Oh, before I go, Jersey Flag had a massive win over the Roosters. Really good effort. I haven't got it up here, but they actually trailed at one point and fell behind again, but then ended up winning, 8-3 against the Roosters, which they love. Mitch Woods had a bit of a field day out there, which is great to see. And plenty of other good players on the wing. Yeah, good. The one we love, that I love. I'll get it up there. Let's have a look at it. William Afawalo. So they scored in the 12th, 28th, and 35th minutes. We scored in the 18th, 24th, and 44th. So they were up 3 tries to 2. It was sort of like try for try. So they were ahead, then we were ahead, then they were ahead, and then we ran away with it. And lots in our development system: Patrick Young, Mitchell Woods, who's in the top 30, I should say. William Afawalo scored first. Tate Cochran playing fullback, doing a great job. Joe Brock, he scores a try. Joseph Taupa, another really talented half. And people need to get to know this kid as well. Very good player. Recently extended Alexander AJ Jones, or AK Jones. Bud Smith, Jason Smith's son, the captain. Jed Reardon, son of Steve Reardon. And Bailey Myers at lock. Conti off the bench with the young fella and very impressive big boy, Oliver Smith. So there you go, guys. 42-18, well done to Jersey Flag. Their season's back on track. So if they can keep, they're still going to trial a few players in and out of Massey and stuff. We'll see the likes of Alatini come in. He played centre for Ron Massey. Tough day out for the boys. But he'll come into Flag and play on that edge and contribute to that side, no doubt, with his talent. And if you haven't watched his video, get out there and watch it. G'day, Jamie. No, that's all right, buddy. You're a real supporter of the podcast, and we all appreciate you, mate. I know you get out on the other podcasts as well, and I'm very much loved, and we love you here as well. And thanks for sharing your time and saying hello. Much appreciated. Lucas, my pleasure. And Tahi, thank you so much. So, yeah, guys, if do me a favour, if you haven't seen Sasaya Alatini's Rising Star player watch that I did, please go watch it, comment on it, get behind the kid, tell us what you think about him, and it gives them a boost, and they can see, they're valued, and they're already getting people watching them. Hopefully it doesn't, get to their head or anything like that, which I'm sure it doesn't. But it just, I'm sure it feels really good, and it's great for the families as well. When you see someone's family, you've got a family member and they get mentioned somewhere or whatever, it makes you proud, makes you feel good, and that's why we do it, to get that happening. So please go and watch that video, comment on it, like and subscribe, yada yada. I feel shit saying like and subscribe all the time, but it helps. It's worth saying. Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do a podcast tomorrow. If I don't do it tomorrow, I'll do it Wednesday. Okay? It's going to be a big week for me. Mother's Day and stuff. I've got a lot of work to do, not only for my partner and stuff, but through work. Mother's Day is a huge week. So there we go. I might even have to watch the game against the Raiders on my phone, and sort of somewhere wherever I am, so I can see it, because I won't get home in time. So I might have to, delay the run I'm doing for a couple of hours. Anyway, everyone, I hope I got through all your questions. Oh, thanks, Elaine. They appreciate it very much. And CJ's got so much support from you guys. I'm so appreciative of that. And I'd like to see that go to Sosiah Alatini's. He shared a lot about his story, and it'd be good if we get there and have a look at it. Would be much appreciated. All right, guys, thank you so much. Much appreciated, and I'll see you tomorrow or Wednesday. Go the Dogs.